Hello, YouTube world. So I've sure got a messed up life. I've sure got a lot of drama in my life, but that's not what this live stream is about. There's a lot of drama in the larger world as well, isn't there? And so I'm going to be talking about that very briefly. I just need to say it just to get it out. Um, so there's been uh, we're being told in the news now for a few days now that there's been attacks in Israel. Hamas, which is some would say is a terrorist organization. I'm not going to take a stand on that, but there's people that Hamas or the Palestinian side in the ongoing conflict that's been going on in Israel since for the past over 60 years now. Um, that that the Palestinian side, represented by Hamas, has done attacks in Israel and killed people. Okay, and this is increasing geopolitical tensions around the globe, which were things were already quite tense to say the least, given the Ukraine situation with Russia. Um, so I just want to point out some things. I haven't even read. I can't stand propaganda. It's all of this. Everything that I just said to you is military industrial complex propaganda. Okay, so I don't really like to read the news or consume that kind of news. So I'm not up like following it minute by minute what's been going on in Israel. I just know that there's been these attacks. Um, so I just want to say it's obvious though to me that this is a continuation or maybe or connected to would be a better way to say it, that this is connected to uh, the Ukraine war. Okay, so Israel is is a force for war in this world. It really is. The country cannot really exist without having tremendous defense because it's surrounded by enemies, right? I mean, it's an artificially created political construct, Israel. I'm not talking about I'm not talking about the Israel in the religious sense when Israel is mentioned in the Bible. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about the political entity of Israel, the country that exists today, that was created after World War II. Okay, so it was created by politicians drawing lines in the sand. And before they did that, after World War II, it was occupied by Palestinians. Okay, the whole thing of it. And, but they've created this um, country after World War II specifically for people of the Jewish faith. So it's a Jewish nation state, and so of course that's going to create waves. You can't just go in somewhere and draw lines on a map and say, well, this is going to be this country now. Like obviously the people who were there are going to have something to say about it, and it's not going to be too nice. So that's why we've been in this quagmire with Israel ever since the end of World War II, shortly after World War II when it was created. And Israel has expanded since then, since its original inception after World War II. So it's been quite aggressive in terms of pushing forward with its claim to the Middle East. And Israel is really in no position to defend itself, being such a small country. It could not afford to fund the military to the degree of a military that it needs to defend itself, given that it's occupying hostile territory. And so that's why, I mean, so much of I think if we peel back the layers, the reason why the United States has been involved in so many wars in the Middle East is because, I mean, it's at the behest of Israel in a large part. It's because Israel can't fight the entire Middle East on its own. So they have to get the United States to fight wars on their behalf. Okay. And so that's a big part of what's been animating the wars in the Middle East for the past 20, 30 years, even behind the scenes, or sometimes not even behind the scenes. Um, and okay, so just to say that. And Israel is also connected to the war in Ukraine because, as I've explained before, this war in Ukraine is really just a proxy war between the US and Russia. So, nobody really wants, even these crazy people in the military industrial complex, nobody really wants, I don't think, the United States to go directly at war with Russia because that risks nuclear Armageddon. These are the two top nuclear powers of the world. So instead of having these two superpowers go head to head with each other, they've been fighting this little side war, this proxy war in the Ukraine. Okay. And, and it's and the intention of this war, if you read behind the between the lines, not the stated intention, but what we can see as the intention is that it is about undermining the power of Russia. So taking a country, a vassal state of Russia, Ukraine has always been intimately connected to Russia. I've explained this in previous live streams. Like the capital of Ukraine is Kiev. Well, that city Kiev used to be the capital of Russia in the Middle Ages. Okay, there's been ethnic Ukrainians have existed for quite a long time, but they did not have their own country. Okay, so as I explained, the ethnic Ukrainians who came to Canada around the turn of the 19th century, turn of the 20th century, so my ancestors, they came here before Ukraine was even a country. So there was never even a country. It was only created as a country after the Soviet Union existed, after the Russian Revolution, and so it was a part of the USSR. It never existed independent of Russia. And then after the breakup of the USSR, then it became a country, but still heavily connected to Russia. Okay, so it's intimately connected to Russia. It's bound up with Russia, just like how Canada is intimately connected to the United States. Well, Ukraine is intimately connected to Russia. It's one of their vassal states, but there's been quite a big push to get the Ukraine to join the European Union, which would be the western side, which is connected to the USA. And so, if it was to do that, that would be Russia losing one of its vassal states. And so this has been in the works for many years with pumping up Ukrainian nationalism in the Ukraine with propaganda and pumping up a lot of dislike, we'll say, towards Russians in the Ukraine. I mean, Russians in the Ukraine have been under attack for quite a number of years now, and this is all part of a concerted effort to undermine Russia, because Russia is a threat to Western hegemony. Russia is actually the richest country in the world, being that it's the largest country in the world. Okay, but it's always had this problem where most of it is landlocked. It's got a Pacific coast, but that's so far away from the population base, so difficult to get to through permafrost and whatnot. Like, they've always had a hard time. They've got lots of resources, but they have a hard time getting their resources to markets. And the West keeps them penned in like that on purpose as well. So, I mean, this is going back hundreds of years. But Russia, I wouldn't say Russia is against Israel, no, but it's nowhere near as friendly. Let's just put it that way. It's nowhere near as friendly towards Israel as the United States is. So the United States has lots of people who run the United States in Congress, lots of politicians actually swear allegiance to Israel. Which is shocking to me. When I found that out, I thought that was really shocking. And this is something particularly common actually among the right wing, so Republicans, that they would swear allegiance to Israel. I mean, I'm not sure, do they swear allegiance to the United States? I don't know, like, are they more loyal to Israel even above the United States? I don't know about that, but I just know that they don't try to even hide it. They're proud of it, that they are serving Israel. even as American politicians. Okay, you don't see that in Russia. You don't see that in Russia. I'm not saying that doesn't mean to say that Russia is hostile to Israel, or that Russia would rather see Israel to not exist as a political entity. I mean, I'm sure there's people who feel that way, but that's not the official position of Russia. So it's not overtly against Israel or anything like that, but it is not as friendly. You're not Israel will not be able to get Russia to fight wars on its behalf the way how it gets the United States to fight wars on its behalf. Okay, so Israel would like to see, just like the Western powers, Israel also would like to see Russia to be weakened. And everybody thought, all these powers thought that Russia was permanently injured after the fall of the Soviet Union in the 90s. Russia was not supposed to make the comeback that it has since then. But since it has made this comeback, well, this is where we've seen this push. It's been many years in the making, more than a decade in the making, of this anti-Russian push coming from the West, but it's also coming from Israel as well. And Israel is quite interested in seeing Russia be weakened, and is quite threatened by the surging power of Russia. And so Israel has been a key supporter of the Ukraine side. The Ukraine side, I mean, the Ukraine nationalist side that is anti-Russian. That is something that Israel has supported quite a bit. And of course, what things aren't going so well in the Ukraine for the Western side. Russia is winning that war. So, the globalists, the military-industrial complex, these people who are run these corporations in the Western world, and it's a revolving door between them and government. And so I'm talking about Western powers, Western hegemons, and Israel as well, lumping that in. They are threatened by what seems like that they're actually losing this Ukraine war. So they had to change tact and change direction and start up a war somewhere else and get everybody's focus onto a different war. And so that's what they've done with this Israel situation. Now, so I mean, it would be, I'm not saying that it is this, but it would be highly suspicious, I would think, that it would be something that I would take into consideration as a strong possibility that this was a false flag, that what happened in Israel was a false flag. Now, whether it really happened or not, I'm not even gonna, there's different ways of doing a false flag. I mean, it could really very well probably did really happen, but that was allowed to happen or set up to happen because the forces in Israel, as well as the rest of the Western world, want to see they want a different war, not the Ukraine war. They want a different one now to take people's attention off of that. But they still, so that's how I see, that is how I see it. I really believe that this is just trying to take people's attention off of that war, which the West was losing to Russia, but was being fought in large part for Israeli interests. And so now they're starting up this other war now, this other new war zone in Israel, or immediately around Israel, Palestine. And that would also be serving Israeli interests. If they could get the United States and other Western powers to go to war against the Palestinians on behalf of Israel, that would serve Israeli interests, just like the Ukraine war would be serving Israeli interests in terms of weakening Russia, which is, as I've explained, they're not overtly hostile towards Israel, but they're not nearly in bed with Israel as much as the United States is. So it's very concerning. It's very disturbing. It basically, I mean, the title of this live stream is World War III. I mean, isn't that what it is? Isn't that, it's looking very close to it. It's looking very close to it because, so now we've got two areas with war going on, Israel, Palestine, and Ukraine. But they're both connected to the same fundamental conflict, which goal, which is, pursuing Israeli interests, undermining Russia. And I think it's another interest could be not just connected to Israel, but another interest could be that these wars serve is to take people's minds in the West, to distract them from the economic malaise that is setting in, which has to do with the fact that that these Western countries do not have sound economies, do not have sound economic systems whatsoever, that they've been printing currency and pursuing ZIRP, zero interest rate policy, for so long that they've done terminal damage to their economies and financial systems. But and the results are starting to show in people's lives, with the cost of living going through the roof and the housing crisis and whatnot. But so this can cause, uprisings in the West if people really sat back and thought about that. But so they don't want people to think about that, so they get everybody distracted with these other wars. So that would be another factor into it. But you could distract people with a war anywhere. I mean, they could. So why it's happening in these specific places is because of the Israeli interests. So I really think that Israel, the political entity of it, is a force for negativity in this world, and I think it should be abolished. That's my personal opinion, and I know that some people get offended by that, thinking that it's anti-Semitic. I have nothing against Jewish people, okay? I have nothing against people of any religion. But a religious nation state doesn't sit well with me as a liberal, classical liberal. Like, I believe in separation of church and state. So we don't have that in Israel. And there's all these articles right now about Christian nationalism, which seems like alarmist articles about Christian nationalism. Jewish nationalism is a much bigger force in this world. Are there any Christian nation states anywhere on the globe? I don't think so. I mean, I could be, maybe somewhere in Africa, some small developed country. I don't think so, though. There's no Christian nation states anywhere on planet Earth, but there is a Jewish nation state, and it commits violence all the time to ensure its continuation, and it was artificially created after World War II. So why should it be continuing anyways? So I'm not exactly a friend of Israel. Okay, I'm not exactly an enemy of it either. I'm basically indifferent. Can you just leave us out? Leave us out of your problems? But so many politicians in the West are concerned with Israel that I have to address it. I mean, I would rather just continue in my indifference, but I have to just say, I think maybe I'm a little bit less than indifferent then. Maybe I think it should be abolished. I really do. The political entity, the state, the country of Israel should not exist. And or if it does exist, it certainly should not be relying on Western military power to constantly fight wars on its behalf in the Middle East or in the Ukraine. All right, that's all I have to say. And I'm going to finish it by saying peace out. I really hope that peace does prevail. I really hope that it does. And that is why I think Israel actually should be abolished, because it's as long as Israel is here, we're not going to have. How are we going to have peace? Like, I don't see how the existence of Israel is compatible with a peaceful world. It's probably not compatible with a peaceful world. We're not going to have world peace until Israel is abolished politically. All right. Okay. So hopefully, and I wish that I could be wrong about that. If we can have peace in this world and have Israel to continue existing, then so be it. Like, that would be great too. Let's just have peace. That would be the big thing. So